On page 2, under traffic in the streets, prior to the last sentence in the first paragraph, I suggest we add the following sentence. Quote, in a further effort to minimize traffic on city streets, the developer will be further required to provide a washout area on the property prior to entering any city street. The Water Department report refers to water movement in the mains for better circulation, but the report from P&Z has no requirements for the developer to loop his system onto the city lines. Therefore, on top of page 4 of the P&Z report, there should be a sentence that reads, the developer must build his water lines in such a fashion as to loop the city lines to provide better circulation to the area's water line. Our report from the Water Department can speak for our lines, but the sewer treatment plant is a joint venture with the city of Festus. We need a written report from the Joint Commission before approval of the conditional use permit so that we can include any conditions they might have. Heavy metals can ruin a sewer plant, so if only toilet and sink will go into the joint plant, the conditional use permit should reflect that. In an effort to be completely truthful in this report, the following needs to be added after the first paragraph in F. Character of the district and the property values in the area. After the word district, we should add the following. Although after the old plant closed, a number of homes have been built in a newly zoned residential area that borders the property in question. In addition, many of the poorly maintained rental units have been either torn down or renovated since the plant closed. And in the second paragraph, and I think this has been mentioned 2 or 3 times, but I want to mention it again. In the second paragraph in F, where did the information come from that says that no adverse effect on residential property will occur? Under G on page 4, I believe that we are here not because there is a question about the M2 designation. We are here to determine if an iron ore smelter is suitable, and we haven't been given much information about that, nor are there any conditions that apply to the iron ore smelter. There's nothing about banning slag piles, nothing about covered and enclosed conveyors, banning coal, no conditions on coke storage, nothing about dust control, nothing about buffer zones. So what are we putting the conditions on? On page 5, the landscaping plan, this is nice, but it's not subject to city council approval, nor is there any public input as this is put together by Windsor as agent. The following should be added at the end of that paragraph, which reads, the landscaping plan shall be subject to the approval of the city building commissioner and the city council. Under page 5, section B, perimeter fence line, again, who approves this design and who will make sure that this is aesthetically pleasing? Again, on the 6th line after the word city, add the following, the perimeter fence will also be subject to approval of the building commissioner and the city council prior to installation. Page 5, section D, there should be no lead, period. No processing, no distributing, no shipping. The last sentence should be stricken. Page 6, section F, who has this noise monitoring equipment? Who will pay for it? Who will get the results? How often will it be taken? What happens if it exceeds the 80 decibels? None of this has been discussed. Page 6, section 8, permits and release of documentation. The word should on line 1 should be must. Also on line 2 after the word permits, add from all local, state, and federal agencies. Further on line 4 after the word permits, add upon receipt. And finally, line 5, after the word approval, the following, except for permits required under city ordinances. Page 6, section I, prohibition of fill material. By adding at the end of line 3 after the word city, the word council. Furthermore, on line 4, by adding the word council after both of the cities. Furthermore, on line 8, by adding after the word city, the word council. And finally, by adding at the end of the paragraph following whether to proceed or not. Page 6, section J, can someone explain the exception provided in the lease? And what does this mean? I'll go on and we can get that answer shortly. Page 7, section K, air emissions. This is a nice statement about what we can do under the federal and state statutes. That applies if the developer has a permit or doesn't need a conditional use permit. We can put conditions on it if we want, and if he doesn't want to abide by them, then we don't issue the conditional use permit. There is no law that says we must issue a conditional use permit. This whole section K is kind of useless nonsense. Page 7, section L, running with the land and time limitations. There are two thoughts. One, if the CUP goes with the land, shouldn't we either know who is behind the whole project to ensure our integrity, or two, put as a condition that it cannot be transferred without approval. We can impose a limitation by passing an ordinance prior to issuing a conditional use permit. Those all had to do with the current findings and conclusions from the planning and zoning. The things that I would like to see added as conditions, I have 3. 1, we have been told that this will be an electric induction furnace at the facility. If we are being told the truth, then I would add the following condition. The conditional use permit is being issued for the construction of an electric induction furnace for the processing and smelting of iron ore material. If the type of processing changes, then Wings must reapply, and this conditional use permit is null and void. 2, all financing data must be given to the council as required by the lease agreement prior to the issuance of any conditional use permit. 3, the developer must comply with all city ordinances, all additional conditions adopted by the P&C Commission and the City Council. Failure to comply to the above will result in the cancellation of the conditional use permit and any fines to be adopted by the City Council. I want to make those all part of the record. And then when I was going through the recommendations from planning and zoning and going through my notes from when we had the votes, there were 2 issues that the planning and zoning voted on, but they were not included in the written report. They were both excellent ideas suggested by Carl Vogt, our engineer. One was no scrap iron, and that was proposed by Mr. Vogt and was voted unanimously to approve. And the other was no coal furnace. That was also proposed by Mr. Vogt, and it was voted on by the Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously. I don't know how they got missed. I mean, it was voted on. It should be part of the recommendation to the City Council, unless somebody can explain to me why we decided not to put those 2 issues in there. Finally, as a member of the City Council for almost 1 year, I've never met with Mr. Kennedy. I've never seen his feasibility study, his business plan, or financing plan. I've yet to see any studies regarding the smelter and the impact it will have on our town, except for the verbal promises of hundreds or thousands of jobs. How can we move forward at this time with this conditional use permit with so many questions? Thank you.
I'm Della Solomon, and I just had